Time now for our popular weekly cookery segment, Northern Nancy's Country Kitchen, with this week's recipe, chocolate birthday cake. Hello, and we've got Northern Nancy here again, and what are you going to make for us today?
I'm going to make a chocolate cake for Stella's friend's birthday. Here we go. I'm weighing out the ingredients. This is 4 ounces of sugar. This is the Victoria sponge recipe with some of the flour replaced by chocolate. 4 ounces of, this is called stork. This is what I use for all my cakes.
Stork is margarine.
Yes.
And so can you use any kind of margarine or butter?
Yes, but most people would prefer butter, but I like this. And that goes into my mixer.
So can we have those quantities again? How
4
much?
ounces of sugar.
4 ounces of sugar.
4 ounces of butter.
Butter or margarine. 4 ounces of butter or
I
margarine.
need 4 ounces of flour and cocoa mixed. So I'm putting in 3 ounces of flour. And this is proper cocoa, it's not drinking chocolate.
So instead of 4 ounces of flour, which you'd use for a Victoria sponge cake, you're replacing 1 ounce of the 4 ounces with cocoa to make it up. There's 3 ounces of self-raising flour and 1 ounce of cocoa.
And half a teaspoonful of
baking powder, is that right?
Yeah.
Now why do you need to add baking powder when you're using self-raising flour?
I like it to rise. Now I've weighed that out. I'm waiting for that just to soften a bit. I'm going to line my tin now. This is my tin that I'm using. Let's I draw around the circle. This is a very old tin. It belonged to my granny. And it's got a double bottom, but it doesn't necessarily matter.
A double bottom? What do you mean by a double bottom? Oh, it's got a double bottom. Is that to stop the cake from burning?
It is, but it's very old.
So how old would that tin be, Nancy?
It's at least 100 years old.
100 years old?
I buy greaseproof paper in packets so that it's flat. Because if you buy it on a roll, it curls up and you can't cut it as easily.
So you buy flat packs of greaseproof paper?
And they're quite difficult to get hold of.
So you've drawn around the bottom of the tin on the...
Right. Now, because I'm parsimonious, I'm using this as to line the sides. There they stay. I'm going to use this to line the sides of the tin. Fold at the bottom.
So you cut out a circle for the bottom and you cut out 2 rectangular pieces.
That's right. This is to line the tin.
That was a little nifty technique, sort of straightening out the paper
on
the side of the table. And now you're making some cuts part of the way up the paper. Now what are you doing that for?
So that it sits in the bottom of the tin.
That's very clever. Now what's the formula again for the radius of a circle?
Pi times the diameter.
Something like that. So there we go. So lining the cake tin. Now did you grease just the inside of the tin?
I haven't greased any. It will be all right like that. Some people will grease it now, but I'll leave mine like that.
You'll leave like that. So you're using an electric mix.
I'm using the mixer. Oh, you can do it by hand. Now I'm going to add half a teaspoonful of vanilla essence.
Why do people add vanilla essence to cakes?
Just makes it taste a little bit better.
Now, could I ask if at this point you could use wholemeal flour or brown sugar?
No.
No.
I'm going to put the eggs in now.
Yes, we are in Yorkshire after all, where chocolate is the national staple, so
I always break them in one at a time, because I once heard a chef say how he ruined 20 eggs by one bagel. So one at a time.
So creaming the butter and sugar with the vanilla essence, and then adding the eggs. So we've got 4 ounces
It's usually
of...
2 eggs, but this is a special one, so I'm putting an extra egg in. Now I'm going to sieve the flour.
Now what does putting an extra egg in do? Why does that make the cake more special?
Rise a bit more.
Right, so egg is a raising agent, is it? I didn't know that.
And some people separate the eggs to put in and bake, put in the yolks, and then they whisk the whites like you do for a meringue. There we are.
So what are some of your tips for having a light sponge? Because I know some people have great difficulty making their sponge rise and keeping it light.
Well, it might be nice old raisin flour, it might be the eggs. I'm making this to a stiff, dropping consistency, not too stiff. This is not the accepted way of making a cake, because this is the common way that
When you say it's not the accepted way, what is the accepted way, and who decided that that was the way you should do it?
This is the way I've always done it. I tried to work out as quick a method as I could. So,
And that's very important for today's cooks, saving time, of course, and a lot of people now have electric mixers, and you're using one with a sort of double mixing blade there from the look of it.
that's right.
Yeah. What's the advantage of using a mixer over hand?
Saves your hand, saves time.
Saves time. And do you think it makes any difference to the end? You know?
I don't know. In the olden days, they used to mix it by hand, all of it. Right, now watch the dropping. That's about the consistency you need it. I'm going to put it in the tin now.
Now what happens if when you do that it's too wet?
Put a drop of boiling water in.
And what does that do? Wouldn't that make it even more sticky or wet?
Just loosens the mixture. This is.
And what if it's too thick?
Well, that's why you're putting it in.
Now I asked you what happens if the mixture's too runny.
Oh, well, it shouldn't be the proportions we've used.
Well, if it happens, you know, like I think one of the things about learning to cook is you often don't know your way out of trouble. You don't have a sat nav.
If you followed the weighing, weighed everything up now, it's.
Would you just add a bit more flour or something, perhaps, to make it stiffer if it was
but
very...
I wouldn't like to get it sloppy.
And of course with cake mix the rule is that if it tastes good and there's a bowl for someone to lick later on, well, it should be pretty good. Now you're shaking the tin, is that to level the surface? Yes, okay.
The oven's been on for 5 minutes and I'm putting it in middle shelf 4.5. So it's 360 Fahrenheit, 185. Right, and that's it until it comes out of the oven. When it comes out of the oven, I shall let it cool down, and then I shall put in the filling, which you can decide what you want.
So what sort of fillings are you like?
Sometimes I put in buttercream, that's made with butter and cocoa powder and a drop of hot water and icing sugar. Sometimes I put fruit filling in. I make sort of like raspberry jam or strawberry jam and put that in the middle. Sometimes I put liquor, rum in the filling with some plumped up sultanas. And then when it's finished, at that point you can put it in the freezer and it will keep for at least a month. But when I get it out, I ice it with chocolate, just melted chocolate.
When you get the cake out of the oven, how do you cool it?
I put it on a tray, leave it on in its tin for 5 minutes and take it out of its tray and let it cool.
So you put it on just an ordinary tray, like, or do you have a special tray to
I have
put
a
it on?
special tray.
Can you show us that tray?
Yeah. My special tray. Yeah, this is very old.
So you're saying that if you get into cookery, it's something that you've just got to buy the equipment.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Yes. It's and I suppose it doesn't have to be shaped like a flower. It's something just to keep the cake off the table.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much for all that, Nancy.
All right.
And we'll see you. Now to wash up. Yes, that's something where you need a kitchen assistant. And there it is, the finished chocolate cake, looking good enough to eat. And Nancy will be having that for tea next Tuesday when her friend comes round. So thank you for watching this week, and we'll be back with another episode of Northern Nancy's Country Kitchen very soon. See you then.